Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Thank you for joining the Halal in Travel Global Summit. I'm Raudha, Strategic Partnerships and Projects Lead at CrescentRating and HalalTrip, and I'll be moderating the session today. We appreciate that you're taking time to join us today, and we're excited to be having the session with our fellow panelists. If you have any questions throughout the session, do drop them in the Q&A tab on the left panel, and our speakers will attend to them. Now on to our session today. The topic is Women in Travel, Conversations with Muslim Women Travelers. The objectives are to discuss the rising trend of Muslim women travelers that up until the pandemic was in a growth phase. The pandemic has undeniably affected this, and we would like to hear from Muslim women travelers themselves how travel was before for them, how it has affected them today, and how it may change in a post-pandemic environment. So that's in a nutshell our objectives for the session. So I'll go ahead and introduce each of our esteemed panelists. We have Soumaya Hamdi, who is the founder and managing director of Halal Travel Guide, a company making it easier for Muslims to enjoy much better travel experiences. Her work has been featured in numerous international publications, including The Guardian Observer and the New York Times, and is described as the entrepreneur defining travel for millennial Muslims. Next, I'd like to introduce Ellie Quinn from the UK. She has been to more than 60 countries, wow, mostly as a solo traveler on long backpacking trips. She started her travel blog, The Wandering Quinn, in 2015 to document her travels, and launched group tours in 2019. She became a Muslim in 2020, and since then has been creating Islamic-focused content on what it is like to be a revert Muslim on her social media channels like Instagram and YouTube. Next, I'd like to introduce Hasna B, a French-Moroccan, mother of 3 currently residing in Singapore who loves traveling. Through her social media and YouTube, she shares lifestyle content to inspire parents to travel and explore the world with their children. Now, thank you, panelists, and I look forward to an exciting discussion today. We have a few questions, but I imagine this will be an interactive discussion, so feel free to interject and jump in and share your views at any time throughout the session. So let me get the ball rolling. Given the topic of Muslim women travelers, given the new travel post-pandemic, first of all, a question: how do you feel Muslim women traveler needs have changed? And more importantly, what will be the key concerns of Muslim women travelers in a post-pandemic travel climate? Maybe I'll ask Ellie to start.
To be honest, I'm probably not the best person to maybe ask that question to, just because obviously I only became Muslim so recently, so I haven't travelled as Muslim since COVID and since reverting. So I'm actually really interested to hear, what the other ladies say on that topic, to be honest.
Perhaps, Soumaya, would you care to share a bit from your experiences running some tour groups pre-pandemic, and what you expect and how you expect would change?
Yeah, sure. And can I just start by saying thank you, Raudha, and to everyone at CrescentRating for organising this event and for making this space possible. And it's really great to be able to share a platform with you wonderful ladies, Raudha, Ellie and Hasna. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't anticipate there's going to be a huge change in the way that Muslim women travel. I think before the pandemic, we were seeing, and certainly there's a lot of research that shows, Muslim women are very much leading the way in the growth of halal tourism, whether it's as traveling with families who are kind of dictating their itineraries and destinations and where to go and planning and that sort of thing, or as independent travelers, be it solo travelers, be it women traveling in groups with other women or mixed groups. And I think we're still going to see that trend continue. I think obviously with the pandemic, this is very much paused. And based on my interactions with Muslim women travelers, there is definitely a hunger to get out there again, but there is more cautiousness. Certainly the inquiries that we've received from Muslim women tend to be very balanced, I'd say, and sensible, that you're taking a sensible approach, balancing the cost of the kind of the risk of traveling during the pandemic and the benefits. So, we haven't run any trips since the pandemic started because we wanted to, be as safe as possible. And I think that we'll see that women will start to kind of emerge and start traveling again once there is a general sense of feeling that it's much safer and more responsible to do so as well.
I think that's a really interesting point because as we see travel perhaps as international travel borders reopen, you could see maybe an increased trend of Muslim women solo travelers who are traveling for business because there could be concerns with traveling with family, with young children. That could still be something at the back of their minds when they're traveling. Hasna, for you, for a mother with traveling so familiar and so used to traveling with your children, how do you think traveling as a woman will change before and after the pandemic?
Yeah, I think like Soumaya said, for me, the security and the safety, this is the most important thing, especially for me, but also because I have kids. So, and with all this COVID situation, we have different priorities. So before I used to travel a lot, for fun, to discover countries, but now I want to travel to visit my family first, So I have more, you understand what I mean? I still want to travel, but for me now, there is a priority. If I can travel, it's really to go home to visit my family. Then, yeah. So safety, security, I think it's really the key for me, my concerns. Yeah.
I think that resonates with a lot of Muslim women travelers anywhere. I think like what Soumaya has mentioned, when travel is okay, that's a lot of us are ready to kind of just really pack our bags and go for a trip. Ellie, I think for you, I think you're in a unique position where you quite recently reverted. So the experience for you as a Muslim woman traveler is probably not, you have no basis of comparison. But how do you think, ultimately the concerns of Muslim women travelers in comparison to the general Muslim travelers are not that much different, except for, I would say, the faith-based, services, what we look for in terms of privacy, or we look for in terms of security. In terms of that kind of considerations in mind, what do you feel would be some of your key concerns, as in travel after, the travel climate gets better? What are some of the concerns at the top of your mind?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, I always kind of enjoyed visiting Muslim majority countries anyway. And I still had a whole list of Muslim majority countries I still wanted to go to. So I think that I will focus on those a little bit more. I guess for me, it is those kind of, like more the outwardly things. I mean, I'm not wearing hijab right now, as you can tell, but hopefully in the future, inshallah, I do plan to wear it more. And one of the comments that I've had quite recently, even just from sharing my travels in the UK, is, from Muslim women who wear hijab, asking me if certain places, even in the UK, are safe. And obviously I can't advise on that because I don't wear hijab either. So I think, as I start changing maybe my outwardly appearance to look more Muslim, then that's something that I'm not necessarily like worried about it, but I think it will be interesting for me just to see the different reactions and things like that. And, even though I'm not wearing hijab, I'm still looking to cover up more. I actually recently got kind of offered a trip to Thailand, which I had to decline. Is coming up, so I didn't have enough time to go. I've got UK trips planned instead. But I just kind of thought like, oh gosh, I don't have any, like really kind of modest clothes that are suitable for that climate at the moment. So for me, that's going to be a real change in that sense as well. But obviously it's, finding halal food, that's something that's still really new to me. But a lot of countries I just eat vegetarian anyway, so it's something I'm quite used to. And even praying, I think that, I'm very happy to pray by myself, and I've been doing quite a few travel prayers anyway here in the UK, which I feel like, alhamdulillah, it does make life a lot easier, definitely. So I'm definitely appreciative of that. So yeah, I'm still intrigued. I think the outwardly change is going to be different for me. But I think I'm going to try and help that by also going to more Muslim majority countries, which is something that I wanted to do anyway. So inshallah.
Inshallah, thanks for that, Ellie. I think a recent session that I was on, also talking about Muslim women travelers, one of the panelists shared her recent trip to a urban ryokan in Tokyo, Japan. So as you know, if you go to a ryokan in Japan, you do have to undress completely, and that might be uncomfortable for some Muslim women. When she was there on her trip, so she outwardly looks like a Muslim woman. She wears the hijab and things. So the person who was at the hotel actually offered her to experience the onsen late at night during the midnight time, right before they were cleaning the onsen, just so that she could fully experience it. So when she shared that with me, I thought that was a really interesting thing, that accommodation that the place was able to do for her as a Muslim woman traveler. However, that sort of information is not visible on the website of that place. So how can destinations such as these, how can establishments such as the ryokan and hotels and restaurants and things like that better cater to Muslim women travelers, in terms of their needs and in terms of their concerns? Maybe I'll ask this question to Soumaya first.
Thank you, Raudha. I'm just going to throw in there that we, certainly in the North African tradition, and Hasna, you can attest to this, I'm sure, we have hammams where it's very similar to the Japanese experience, to be honest, where like in the Turkish hammams, Moroccan, Algerian, North African, and I'm sure various other places, it's pretty much the same principle applied. So I don't know if everyone would have an issue with that. But I think a lot of it is about education and communication. And Japan is a great example of, and South Korea as well, of destinations that really have embraced getting to know what Muslim travelers need and just trying to listen to them. And I think the best way that destinations can find out what Muslim travelers want is by speaking to them and by having open lines of communication and making sure that, for example, when tourism boards update their websites or they decide to do some social media that targets Muslim travelers, they're doing it in a really informed way where they're working with halal travel experts who are able to give them an informed view, both kind of data-wise, but also anecdotally, that ensures that they get the messaging right. Because I think it's really important that we get the messaging right. If you look at mainstream travel brands, you don't see visible Muslims at all. And by visible Muslim, generally it means Muslim women. Sometimes it is men as well, but by and large it's women because of the headscarf, because of the more modest clothing. And you just don't see Muslim women featured as travelers in mainstream travel brands anywhere, really. And then it kind of begs the question, what's the reason for that? Are we still not, are we welcome to visit certain destinations? Will we feel comfortable there? Will we feel welcome there? And Ellie, I think you touched on that already with the questions that Muslim women have in their minds about going to a destination is, am I going to stick out? Am I going to be treated well? Should I be concerned? And really it's, if destinations want to tap into this market and also benefit from this market, then really it's about speaking to experts and finding out what Muslim women's concerns are. And definitely one of the top concerns is going to be, am I going to feel welcome? And just kind of pulling on my own experience, when I went to South Korea in 2015, I remember landing at the airport and, you can see how I'm dressed, right? And I landed at the airport. Coming from London is very multicultural, and then I arrive and find that I'm the only one who looks like me. And my first feeling was, what am I doing here? This is a terrible idea. I'm going to get stares and so on. But because I was already there, I had no choice but to kind of just get on with it. And I found after a couple of weeks that people were generally really friendly. They were curious, but in a kind way, not in a horrible way, and very welcoming. And once Muslim women have these experiences where they're like, oh, actually, I can go to a destination that's not a Muslim majority country and still feel welcome and have a good time, you'll find that Muslim women really will just travel anywhere. It's, you know, anywhere that they feel that they're welcome to go to, whether it's a Muslim majority destination or not. So I hope that destinations will start to take seriously these concerns and engage in these conversations with experts.
I think that's completely right. I think we are like any other travelers in a sense that, you know, when we travel to a local destination, we would really want to experience the destination's specialties, be it food, be it experiences, and also kind of connecting with the locals. Ellie, would you like to add?
Yeah, it just it made me think, actually, last year I was listening to a panel talk, I think it was at the Arabia travel market, and one of the a blogger from Saudi, or Instagrammer, he said that he actually got invited to a hotel. I can't remember what country it was, but he said at one point they had a lot of Muslim travelers, and then they were getting all of these bad reviews, and they basically said, like, can you come here and, you know, help us? Like, why are we getting all of these bad reviews? And he said it literally he went off with his family, and he realized that, you know, they've got all these private villas, these private pools, but actually, you know, it really wasn't that private. And, you know, they're selling themselves as being really private. And, you know, when you actually got there, they actually weren't. And, you know, I think that's a really good example of actually, you know, taking Muslim travelers, halal travelers to these destinations to actually experience it, and not just experience it, because I know, especially doing press trips as a blogger, often they just want you to go there, experience it, say everything positive, and then leave. But what they spoke about in this discussion as well is just how important it is for, you know, bloggers, YouTubers, influencers to also give their feedback, because, you know, at the end of the day, they are the, you know, the pros in a way, not just to go there and say, oh, this is amazing, but also to give their feedback of how these properties and places can do better for Muslim travelers. So yeah, that just reminded me of that, which I think is hopefully brands and tourism boards going forward can kind of do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think what Soumaya and Ellie are saying is basically to you know, talk to Muslim women travelers and understand, you know, what their needs are, what their concerns are, and hopefully with this session, you know, that we're having, we're able to address some of that for destinations and brands and businesses. Hasna, how you know, representing, I think you represent that profile of family travelers. In your opinion, how can, you know, these brands better cater to Muslim women travelers traveling with their family?
Yeah, for me, it's really understanding the person, but also, I mean, our religion, you know, to be honest, I travel to a lot of places, and I always used to buy, you know, the guide to know, I don't know, you know, the food to try, where to go. And you always have this page, what you can do, what you cannot do. If you go to this country, I don't know, you cannot touch the head of the kids, or you cannot give hand to women, you know. So it's exactly the same. I mean, they have to understand our restriction, why it's important for us, for example, I don't know, to not be mixed with men in onsens, you know. I mean, just understand, to give us the correct services. Because, for example, when I went to Japan, I was really frustrated that I couldn't try the onsen, because, I mean, I couldn't remove my clothes, or, you understand. So for me, I'm still missing this, you know. I'm just, if I can try the onsen in Japan, but I don't know, maybe they can allow us to wear something different, or maybe some timing individual, you know. So yeah, for me, it's not just about traveling. It's even in everyday life, we have to understand other people to be able to, I mean, I just feel, I mean, more respected when someone know about, I don't know, like, oh, you are wearing hijab, understand why you don't eat pork, or this, you know. Just an example, for example, just a few weeks ago, my friend, she booked a massage for us. She's a European, you know. And then when I went there, it was two guys, you know. And Zaida told her, sorry, I cannot, you know, he's a man. And she was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, how I can, you know. So it's really trying to understand, because it was not her fault, she just didn't know. But then, I mean, we need this discussion with the ladies to understand what they need. And yeah, so
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is, you know, it's about communication. It's about,
communication,
you know,
exactly.
having representations of us, you know, in marketing collateral, representations of us, no matter how we look, you know, regardless of the color, regardless of what we wear. So, you know, these messages are resonating with Muslim travelers when they are going to destinations. And I think also a really important point that Hasna, you brought up is more often than not, it's not about them having to do a complete overhaul of, you know, their current facilities. It's not about having to renovate an entire wing of the hotel or facility. It's really about, I think, making some internal changes, some accommodation changes, accommodating to this segment, a segment that, you know, based on the research that we have done, is a significant segment with real spending power. So I think we are fast approaching our time that we have at the end. So maybe I'll jump into the questions that we have. So Ellie, as a content creator, you know, you make a living writing, filming about your travels. How has the travel restrictions affected you as a content creator and as a traveler?
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely hard. Last year was pretty much obviously a no-go, but I'll focus on the positive, because this year, and especially you know, since things have opened up, basically after Ramadan finished here in the UK, you know, my blog is kind of like fully back on track with the amount of page views it's getting. And that's all from my UK content, and that's all a UK audience. So for me at the moment, I'm really happy with how things are going. I've also been offered quite a few trips recently with tourism boards and brands, and that is based on the UK. So I'm really pleased that obviously that does benefit me, but it's also really nice, you know, that the UK travel can be hard. It can be expensive at times, and especially things have booked up quite quickly here again this year, like last year. But, you know, it's also really nice that people are exploring a little bit more here in the UK. You know, we've got so many beautiful places, and I think people are realizing that as well. And so, you know, I'm very typical of like traveling the world, but not traveling my home country. So yeah, it has been hard. Last year was definitely hard for me, but I feel like hopefully, inshallah, there's a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel now for me.
So it sounds like, I think, slowly things are picking up for you. So that's really good news. I think what you said about the typical story of not traveling your own countries, it's very much relevant, especially I think for us here in Singapore as well. You know, the local government is running a whole campaign targeted at getting the locals to rediscover Singapore. You know, so I think that's probably happening across the world. Soumaya, as an entrepreneur, how has the brand pivoted or diversified your business offerings in light of, you know, of the pandemic, and how is the situation for the brand right now?
So I mean, we had to pivot right at the very beginning, where we shifted from focusing on selling our tours to just sharing information. So kind of information about how people can reutilize experiences from their past travel experiences, whether it's photos or sharing stories from previous trips. So a lot of it was going back to storytelling. And I think, you know, it's been a while now since we hosted a trip. It's been about a year and a half. But alhamdulillah, we've been able to pivot, because Halal Travel Guide is more about a vision than it is a company. And it's a vision about connecting and building bridges between people, by working with locals, by sharing Islamic heritage, and by just paving a better way for Muslims to travel. So one of the ways that we've done that is by starting a new podcast during the pandemic, in which we got our local tour guides, who are, you know, the experts in their field, to basically take people on virtual tours of their destinations. So we have our local tour guide in Spain. He's one of the only experts in the kind of the history of the Islamic heritage in the Alhambra Palace, for example. And he did a wonderful podcast with us where he tells us about the secrets of the ayahs of the Quran on the Alhambra, and all the things that you would otherwise miss without having not just a tour guide, but a tour guide who's Muslim and understands the nuances that come in with this. So we've been continuing to work on our mission to build bridges through Muslims by sharing stories from our heritage and by building connections with locals across the world. But we've also noticed that a lot of destinations, and you've probably seen it as well, are taking this breather in the pandemic to really reassess how they approach tourism and how they can restart in a way that's more sustainable and more beneficial to destinations, and do so in a way that has less of the negative impacts that we've seen in mass tourism in places like Venice, in like Dubrovnik, in Thailand. So what we found while kind of speaking with government bodies and advising them is that there is definitely more of an interest in how they can target the halal market as we begin to emerge from the pandemic, because there is an opportunity through halal tourism, and if we do it right, to build a framework to conduct travel that is much more sustainable and more beneficial, both to destinations and to travelers. And I hope that destinations will start to take that a lot more seriously, inshallah.
Inshallah, I think it's really heartwarming to hear. A lot of businesses, some don't make it, and I think it's to be able to make it through these tough times. I think alhamdulillah, I think inshallah things are picking up for a lot of us as well. Hasna, you are home away from home. I think for you, I think 2 questions, if I may. First one is, you're also a content creator. So how has that, changed how you create content? I think my second question is, what are some of your key concerns as international travel borders reopen and you can visit family back home? I think that's something that you're looking forward to greatly.
Yeah. So to answer to your first question, I mean, it's I'm like Ellie. I just started to focus more on Singapore. I mean, Singapore is small, but I really try to. To visit again places, to create content. I try to also give ideas to people, because to be honest, I mean, in Singapore, a lot of foreigners feel really, without traveling, they feel really boring, So I really try to share as I can, sometimes we don't need to, to take a flight and all this to find nice places, So yeah. And for my second question, for foreigner in Singapore now, we have some restriction. If we want to travel, we need to be sponsored by the company, and we have the quarantine when we come back. We have 2 weeks in the hotel and we have to pay. So to be honest, for us, we cannot travel now, but I really hope that soon, we will be able to travel and maybe able to do the quarantine inside, at home, because I have 3 kids, 5. Family of 5. If I have to, France, it's not, it's very far. So the price of the ticket and all these things, plus the price of the quarantine, it's just not possible for us now. So yeah, I hope that we will be all vaccinated soon, and then that we can travel, easily. Yeah.
Yes, I think the light is, we can all see the light at the end of the tunnel where we are. So I think inshallah, I think it will be very, very soon that we'll be able to travel. So I think I see that we are running out of time, but I think what we have gathered from our conversations today, I think ultimately communication, I think education, awareness is something that is really important, that brands and destinations, businesses should take note of when targeting this segment. The Muslim women travel segment itself also, perhaps last year, this year, in the next couple of years, travel in itself will not be as prevalent. But I think once things pick up, I feel like there is no doubt, this trend will just continue to rise, seeing as how and will just pick up where it left off pre-pandemic. So I would like to thank the panelists for your time. Thank you, audience, for your time as well, for attending this session today. Thank you. I look forward to other sessions, and we hope we've addressed any of the questions that you have had in the Q&A tab. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.